Hey there, everybody, and welcome to the Fearless Thinking Podcast, designed to help you navigate authentic leadership and the entrepreneurial journey. I'm your host, Michael Devous, and these are my thoughts, lessons, and insights from my entrepreneurial journey into coaching, workshops, motivational speaking, and of course, what I picked up from interviews with inspiring leaders and entrepreneurs along the way. My mission is to help people unlock their untapped potential by using fear as a catalyst for powerful change and growth, so they can step into the greatest version of their most authentic selves. All right, let's get into some fearless thinking. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Fearless Thinking. I'm your host, Michael Devous. This is the episode about ethics and AI, responsible innovation for entrepreneurs. Now, we knew we were getting here this past month as we were examining all the different types of AI systems, innovations, opportunities, frameworks, you name it, that different companies, organizations, and industries are using currently to build out their tech stack, to build out their systems, to navigate the world of using AI, whether that's, company-wide or individually. And ethics is falling into the big part of it. You can see a lot of ethics consulting jobs out there that are popping up on the radars. So yeah, let's dive into this, right? This year, it's funny because almost all the scripts that I have that I've put through my AI and put them together and stuff, AI almost always says by 2025, as it's almost as if AI still thinks 2025 is further away and off in the distance, when in fact it's here, it's happening today. So no, it's not by 2025. By the end of 2025, AI ethicists, and that's a hard one to say, I think we have to come up with a new term, will be in high demand across almost all of the market industries. Ethical considerations become paramount with artificial intelligence, implementing those locally if you're doing it large businesses on their servers and ingesting certain data sets that you've had over the years, right? So are we ready to lead the charge in responsible AI innovation, both as entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, or even as a business? And what does it look like to start building out the frameworks for an ethical AI system or a set of processes and policies at your organization or your company? And what should we consider? AI is no longer, it's just no longer the future. It's not a fantasy. It's here. It's here now. And it's happening to us everywhere, right? And it is a game changer for entrepreneurs. But as we embrace the power of AI, we do need to be mindful of its potential pitfalls. And that's where ethical AI comes in. Ethical AI is about building AI systems that are fair, unbiased, and transparent. A few trigger words in these day and ages, right? With our political climate and businesses and stuff ditching their DEI programs, how are they going to balance the need for fair, unbiased, and transparent AI systems, as well as ensuring that the data sets that they put into it are also fair and unbiased and transparent, right? It's about ensuring that AI serves us, humanity, and not the other way around. And by the way, for entrepreneurs and solopreneurs, it's not just about doing the right thing, but it's about doing the smart thing for your business. Because remember, if the world out there, if your customers and your consumers know that you are fair and unbiased and transparent in your use of AI, you can leverage that to help connect people with your brand and your message and your mission, right? Getting even more authentic. So remember, the story about that startup, by the way, you've probably heard of it, that used AI to screen job applicants only to find out that it was biased against women and they got sued. Huge lawsuits and a bad damage and damage to their reputation, by the way. They lost valuable time and money and resources simply because they didn't do their due diligence to ensure that their AI data set, that the data sets they were putting into their AI was fair, was unbiased, right? And sometimes we don't even know this about ourselves. These are complicit bias, unknown biases. So I think it's important that you when you're creating a framework, to start out with this, you understand what questions you're asking and why you're asking them, and then you provide the right data sets so that your AI can perform to the standards that you expect it to for your business model, right? By embedding ethical considerations into your AI as a strategy from day one, you can avoid a lot of these costly mistakes. And you can build a business that is not only innovative, but it's responsible, right? So, some key ethical considerations for AI, right? What do we want to look for? One, privacy and data protection. We know that this is important. It's everywhere that we go. All of our data is everywhere. You've agreed to let people use some of it. You've agreed to let people do whatever they want to with it right across the board. However, when we're talking about AI thrives on data. It needs that data in order to make decisions. Your other types of data, they don't make decisions. They go out to people that make decisions. But that data belongs to real people. That's valuable. That's a valuable resource. So, are you as a business collecting and storing and using data responsibly? And if so, how are you communicating that forward to the public, to your audience, to your consumers? Two is transparency and explainability. AI shouldn't be, a magic box. Can you actually explain how your AI systems work and why they make the decisions that they make? You will see some of this in new AI platforms such as DeepSeek and Perplexity, and I think Claude now, where when you put the query in or the prompt in, you can see it actually going through its decision making process and asking the questions, and you can see the steps it's taking. So you can go back and look at when did it make the decision it made and why did it make that decision based on the previous pieces of data sets that it may have had to make that choice or make that decision. I think it's important to know what and how your AI is making those choices, right? Three is fairness and bias mitigation. It is your AI system. Is it treating everyone fairly, regardless of background? Or what are those standards? How do you want it to treat people based on their what? Color, race, creed, all those things you put into your employment contracts. Can you ensure that your AI system is ingesting that information and acting in alignment with those standards and policies and procedures? Are you actively working, by the way, to identify and mitigate bias in your organization or in your copy or your content or your data sets, right? And the last one is accountability and responsibility. If your AI system makes a mistake, who is accountable? Have you even established clear lines of responsibility when something like that might occur? If something like that, and it will, by the way, it's going to occur. So where does the buck stop? Have you decided how you want that to be managed and who's the first to step up and own that situation and then fix it uh, accordingly, right? Repair it accordingly. So these are ethical dilemmas, right? They're not just hypotheticals anymore. They're actually playing out in the real world today. So if you think about uh, Facebook's facial recognition software challenge that they had. The technology was being used in surveillance and it's also being used in AI powered loan applications where they were discriminating against certain demographics. Facebook's uh, Facebook's um, Facebook's face recognition was discriminating against people of color. These are big problems, right? And while you might be able to do it one to one individually, you might have a manager that's biased or bigoted or prejudiced. It's not gonna work in the bigger, larger scheme of things. You're gonna have systems in place where people are gonna know when they walk through that door, interact with your AI, whether or not they're accepted or not. And then that's gonna tell people where to spend their money. Maybe you want that. Maybe you do want that as a filter for your business. But if you don't and you really want to be transparent, I think it's important to think about these things, right? As entrepreneurs, we have a responsibility to be aware of these issues and then address them head on in our development of not only our policies and procedures, but our AI processes, right? So, how do we mitigate bias, right, with AI? What kind of strategies can we put together and can we use to mitigate these things, right? So, biases can sneak up into the systems, into AI systems, right, in many different ways, from the data sets that we use to train on to the very algorithms that they're built on. For instance, if you have data sets that you want to use from the past 10 years, how do you know that your employees, your staff creating those data sets and the information that was going into them didn't place unfair biases, prejudices, or opinions in the data set? How would you know? We've never had the ability to really go back and scrape and scrub these things to find these things out, right? So one is you gotta know the types of biases, right? There's algorithmic bias, right? Where AI system itself is biased and the data is biased. Where did the data come from? Where the data that was used to train the AI system is actually biased data, right? And if you don't have data and you're starting out, you have a new startup and you want to create an AI system and you want to check those things, but you need data sets. Do you go and lease data sets? Do you purchase data sets from McKinsey and other big institutions with focus groups and all of that data? Do you purchase it from them and ingest it into the system? And how do you know when you do so that that data set doesn't include biases? Mitigation strategies, if you're going to tackle this, we need to ensure that our training data is as diverse and representative of all the people that are in our company and that are our consumers, that are our target market, right? We also need to regularly audit our systems, our both AI systems as well as our policies and procedures for bias as it might occur, and build in inclusive development teams that can spot this and address these potential biases quickly. So there's a company recently that developed an AI-powered medical diagnosis tool. I don't know if you've heard of this. AI is helping a lot of medical facilities diagnose uh, patients, right? Provide expert advice and additional deep learning advice on potential cases or situations for patients, right? They discovered that in their initial training data that this data set was mostly consisting of only white patients, and this led to inaccurate diagnosis for people of color. So you can imagine if your data set, like I was saying, if it only includes one section of humanity, then you're clearly not gonna get a diverse set of responses and answers from AI. It has no ability to do so because the only data set it has to use to base those decisions on is a limited data set. Now, if I told you I was gonna give you a limited data set to operate and function for your business and your life, and good luck to you, would you accept that? Would you want that? No, you wouldn't. You'd be like, "I don't want a limited data set. I want data sets that are specific to my business, specific to my target market, as wide and varied as possible so that I can include as many individuals as I can because it's about revenue. At the end of the day, honestly, we do want to serve, we want to create impact. But guys, if you're not making money and you're impacting your ability to make money because you're making bad choices about data sets going into your AI systems, that's on you. And that's going to crush your business. And I don't understand why anybody would do that. But I can understand there are circumstances under which you would want very specific types of data sets being put in, especially when you're doing case studies, right? So by diversifying our training data, we are able to significantly improve accuracy and fairness within the AI system, right? So transparency and explainability in AI system. This is another one. We all know people want us to be transparent in our business model, our policies and procedures, but also with our data sets, right? How do we provide transparency and, by the way, explainability, meaning explaining why and how our systems are doing what they're doing? When customers and clients and people want to know, why is your data doing what it's doing? How did you train it? And they're going to begin to ask these questions because they are going to want to know who they're working with. They're going to want to know who they're buying from, right? And it's very telling when they understand that these systems, you can't answer those questions clear and transparently, and you can't provide explainability. That's going to be tough. Transparency, obviously, in this world, it's tough because you're going to be transparent with the data, but you want to be transparent with how you're using the data. AI systems build trust with the users who use them, and they empower us to make informed decisions. So we want to make sure that we're also being transparent with that toward to our customers, our clients, and our community, right? Techniques for explainability. This is when we are interpreting the machines are interpreting the learning models, right? We can use them in this fashion to implement AI explanation tools. This way, they are clearly communicating not only their capabilities and their limitations, but also how they came to their decisions, right? So if some AI made a choice at a certain juncture during a customer's journey and they were looking for help and the result was not what the customer wanted. We need to be able to go back and figure out in that system, right? The learning model, what tools do we have to explain why, and how can we clearly communicate why this choice was made at this juncture and then adjust the algorithm or apply new data sets in order for the algorithm to function better, right? So a prime example, and we're getting very close to these, is these self-driving car situations. A self-driving car suddenly makes a stop. You're the passenger. AI transparency would be useful here because without it, the passenger could be confused and scared, not understanding why the car just suddenly stopped. No, you're not in the front seat. You're not driving. You're not paying attention. But if the car were be able to explain to the passenger that it stopped, perhaps because it detected a pedestrian in the sidewalk or stepping off the curb or any number of different obstacles that might have been or appeared in the road, then the passenger would feel safer and more confident in the AI's abilities. Having an automation system in your cars, these cars, I think the ones that explain the most and share with you the most, about what they're doing to make you feel comfortable are gonna be the first and early adopters, and then eventually we'll get more comfortable and we won't need them. We'll be able to change the, sharing parameters, I would say, where you're like, "I don't need you to share so much. I trust you," kind of a situation. Next is building a culture of responsible innovation. This whole process, right, of creating these workplaces and building AI ethics into things and these systems that we're creating is going to ultimately create a culture. And how do we want to build a culture of responsible innovation within our companies and our communities, right? It starts with AI ethics committees, perhaps considering consider establishing an AI ethics committee for your company to guide and oversee your AI development efforts. That it could include a psychologist, a therapist, a philosopher. It could include HR, but also a very good subsection of your employees across multiple departments, right? So you're getting diverse perspectives and experiences and feedback and input. Next is an ethical set of guidelines and frameworks. Implementing clear ethical guidelines and frameworks to ensure that your AI development aligns with your company values is crucial. So check the purpose statement, mission statement, value statement. Do these actually align not only with your messaging and marketing, do these align with what's going out there? Do your customers see this as aligning with who you are? Does your staff and your employees think that these align? And then finally, when you're putting it into your AI systems, do the algorithms, the measurements, the criteria, do they align with your values and your mission as an organization and a company? Next is having open discussions. In order to get feedback, in order to know if it's working or not, you need to encourage open and honest communication and conversations and AI ethics within your company, right? You got to create that space that feels safe for employees to feel comfortable raising their concerns and sharing their ideas. With that feedback, you can almost assuredly make sure that whatever you're implementing, you're doing it not only with their approval and their understanding, but you're also creating an environment and a culture where they feel heard and it's important and they feel important and valued, right? So, by being an ethical AI leader, you're not just doing what's right, you're doing what's better and stronger for your company, building more sustainable business practices. Consumers are increasingly demanding more ethical AI, more transparency, and the companies that prioritize this will be rewarded, by the way, with the trust and loyalty and ultimately the purchasing power of those customers, right? So, if we have fearless entrepreneurs and we're stepping out, by the way, because we're the early adopters, onto this path of innovation and learning. And while, by the way, this was tech adoption, this was model adoption, this was a lot of different things. But up until now, when we're looking at um, AI being part of our development process and part of our systems and part of our business models, right? We are the ones out at the front, right? So here's our challenge this week: create an ethical audit of your business and your systems. Take a close look at your current systems or your planned AI implementations if you have them. And have you considered, by the way, are there any ethical concerns that you need to address? Two, AI ethics policy. Create a policy that it matches, like I said, that's in alignment with mission, purpose, value, messaging, marketing, audience, employees. All of them have to be in alignment. If they're not and they're incongruent, if they're out of alignment at any point during the way, you are going to run into problems. And your AI is most likely going to put a highlight on it because it will make the mistake very quickly and very easily by making assumptions based on your lack of judgment or inefficient AI ethics policies. And then finally, diverse and inclusive approach. We're never going to get rid of DEI. I'm sorry. Diversity, equity, and inclusivity is not going away, people. And I don't care how much you want to jettison it, walk away from it, forget about it, whatever it is you got to do. If you want to be successful in today's market and you want to start using AI to get ahead, to have that advantage, guess what? You're going to need to teach and train and provide processes that are both data sets, by the way, that are diverse and inclusive. That's tough to do when you can balance. How do you balance those two when they're not, when they're in conflict with each other? Be curious to see what people have to say about that, because I think we're going to see more opportunities for dialogues around this particular thing coming up for sure. So make sure that you're putting in when you're developing your AI that you have testing processes to ensure diversity and inclusive data and reactions and responses, right? Not only for your AI, but also for your employees and your staff. Now, remember that focusing on the positive impact for your organization and your company using AI ethical practices. This can help you navigate complex issues with confidence, right? Stay true to your values, obviously, and engage in an open dialogue consistently with your people, with your teams, right? And then build that AI powered future that benefits everyone in your company, and even your customers, right? So that's a wrap this week on Fearless Thinking AI Ethics. Ooh, who knew we'd get this far? Who knew that AI would be, we would be talking about it in so many different facets and so many different areas? I think it's fascinating. And I still think there's so much more to come. There's so much more that's going to happen. And just we need to be on top of it and ahead of it and be opening a dialogue about it. So, yeah, have a fantastic week, everybody. Enjoy yourselves and do a little AI ethical thinking this week and get back to me on, do you have a strategy? Do you have a plan? And if you don't have data sets, where are you going to get those? I'd be curious to find out. That would be very interesting for us to know. All right. Well, have a wonderful week. I'm Michael Devous. This is Fearless Thinking. Okay. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
This has been a Fearless Grown Network production, brought to you by Devous Media Holdings, LLC.